So recently, I had an epiphany about the writing of Will's coming out scene at the end of Volume 2. And as I'm writing this right now, I'm still seeing a lot of discussion online about it. People at the time were either angry or they were making memes about it or both. I saw there were people disappointed by the scene, that they were confused by the scene's direction. And don't get me wrong, I was one of those people. When I first watched the scene, I was confused because it starts with Will having this private moment with Joyce where he admits he didn't reveal everything to her about why Vecna has such a hold on him. Then Mike walks in and he's about to leave, but Will's like, no, you need to hear this. Everyone needs to hear this. So now it's not just Joyce and Mike, it is everyone. And yeah, Will calls the group meeting. All his friends are there. Robin and Jonathan, who he's already come out to, are there. Vicky, Nancy, and Steve are there. People he's friends with, but he's not as close to, which, okay, fine. These characters have known each other for years by this point. They've been through hell and back together. But then we see Murray and Callie are there, who Will doesn't really know or even at all. And I think this is the tipping point for a lot of people because why is Will coming out to people he barely knows? People he's never shown to have on screen interactions with. So what gives? Because in the past with coming out scenes in Stranger Things, they've exclusively been between two people, the coming outer and the coming outie. And this has led to the scene's impact. It's personal, it's intimate, it reinforces and strengthens the bonds between the two people. And in a different way, this scene does this too. Will's bonds with his friends and family member are definitely strengthened after this episode, but there's no denying that the scene still feels off for some reason. I've seen a lot of people compare it to an intervention or jokingly to some kind of social event, like, hey, come to my coming out party, you're all invited. But I do feel like there is an intention behind why this scene is written this way, because this should be a positive scene. We should be happy for Will. But for whatever reason, we can't shake this impending sense of dread, even after all of Will's loved ones have hugged and told him he'll never lose them. But just because we feel this way doesn't mean we can't understand why. When Stranger Things has wrote coming out scenes in the past, we were able to connect with them more intimately because it felt like we were getting insight into something none of the rest of the cast knew. By this point in the story, though, the audience already knows Will is gay, and we know based on what Will's been through with the rest of the characters that they are going to accept him even if he doesn't know it yet. So, unlike with Robin and Steve or Will and Jonathan, question hanging in the air of this scene isn't how is this person going to react to this person coming out? It's why is this person choosing to come out in this way? By the time of making this video, there has already been a lot of backlash against The Bridge and the Duffer Brothers and even some of the cast members who work on Stranger Things. I will admit, if you go onto my Tumblr, you will probably find some of my own reactionary responses to the writing of the episode. And right here and now, I'd like to own up to that and apologise. I also was looking at this scene in a vacuum without taking the rest of the episode into account because there are quite a few notable moments that have really helped me recontextualise Will's coming out scene. Because it's not just a coming out scene, it's a eulogy. Yeah, so if you've read the thumbnail of this video, you probably already know where I'm going with this, but first of all, we need to start at the beginning of The Bridge when Will has woken up from Vecna's possession and he has this scene in Elle's bedroom with Joyce. And I feel like people forget this scene when providing context to Will's coming out because it represents such a turning point in Will's arc. Will has struggled with his sexuality ever since the start of the series. We've seen him experience complete anguish when he wasn't able to emotionally articulate his feelings for Mike in season 3 and later in season 4 when he was. So for a lot of people, it's easy to look at Will's coming out by itself because it unquestionably overshadows the rest of the episode. And because we as the audience have become so desensitized to Will just going through the ringer when it comes to getting captured and controlled and tortured by Vecna. Even after Will gets his powers in Sorcerer and he's able to kill the demos, he still carries tremendous guilt over not being able to stop Holly and the others from getting captured and being the one who dug the tunnels to the Upside Down under Vecna's influence.
Sweetheart, this is not over. Not by a long shot.
You're wrong. You're wrong, Mom. It's my fault.
By this point, Will has come to terms with his sexuality, but that does not mean he has overcome his trauma. And I think that's something a lot of people didn't realize after The Bridge. This is another thing a lot of people had a problem with because it felt like a regression of Will's arc when really it was his tipping point. Even though he was able to temporarily possess Vecna to save Max and Holly, and he was able to locate where Derek and the other kids were, Will was still captured and tortured by Vecna. He wasn't strong enough and he needed to be saved by 11. Someone who has been honing her powers for years, someone who was romantically loved by the person Will loves, someone who has seemingly broke free of being controlled by the Upside Down. And even after all that Will has accomplished, he is still mentally scarred by his experiences in the Upside Down, and there is nothing Joyce can say to not make him feel like everything that's happened over the past 4 years wasn't his own fault. So after Dustin talks about the exotic matter being what holds the bridge between the Upside Down and the right side up together, we later see Will alone looking at the diagram with his head positioned within the circle that represents the exotic matter. We then see him have this discussion with Max and Vicky about how they know they can weaponize Vecna's fear of the cave against him, that everyone is scared of something, and obviously this makes Will think of his own fear before looking back to the diagram. It's a small moment, but it's supposed to cue to us that Will is thinking of how he's going to destroy the exotic matter to sever the bridge. Because that's when Will has his epiphany. If my powers aren't meant to save my loved ones, to save myself, if saving is to be left to people like 11 who are strong enough to save me, then maybe my powers are meant to destroy. Destroy the Demogorgons, destroy the Upside Down, destroy this literal and metaphorical connection I've had with this monster in this nightmare world, destroy myself. And that's why Will focuses on the diagram, but doesn't tell anyone why. It's why in the coming out scene, he's so desperate to remind his loved ones how similar he is to them, because it's how he wants to be remembered.
I wanted to be like everyone else. I wanted to be like my friends, and we like playing D&D late into the night, and we like that old person smell in Mike's basement, and we like getting lost in the woods, and getting lost in Family Video, and arguing about what to rent, and settling on Holy Grail for the millionth time, and Lucky Charms, and literally all the same things.
It's why he assumes that he has no future with Mike without directly talking to him about his feelings, because he never intended to have that conversation with him.
And I had this crush on someone, even though I know they're not like me.
It's why he indirectly calls Mike his Tammy, because he's trying to desensitize himself to how strong his feelings really are.
But then I realized he's just my Tammy, and by Tammy I mean it was never about him. It was about me, and I thought I was finally okay with myself.
It's why he tells Elle he needs to be there in the Upside Down on the last crawl, but tells her that he knows she's strong enough to fight Vecna alone, implicitly telling us he thinks he's not. It's why when he rallies the party, he doesn't say something like, "We're going to survive this, I'm going to survive this." No, he says,
I'm ready to show him I'm not afraid anymore.
Not because he's afraid of his sexuality anymore, but because he isn't afraid to die. And the thing is, we do have precedents of Will having this self-sacrificial mentality in the series. We see it in season 1 when Mike talks to Lucas about how Will plays D&D.
I'm worried about Will. Over. My point is, he could have played it safe, but he didn't. He put himself in danger to help the party.
We see it in season 2 when Will tells the party they need to close the gate to the Upside Down, even though he would be left on the inside. We see it in season 4 when he confesses to Mike through Elle's feelings. And we see it now in his season 5 coming out scene, because coming out is its own metaphorical form of death. It's telling someone that the version of themselves that existed in their mind no longer exists. And the fact that Will comes out to everyone instead of just Joyce or Mike or even just his immediate friend group doesn't just convey this sense of finality to the conversation, but inconsequentiality. It's almost like he's
Get it over with quick, like ripping off a band-aid.
Now, do I actually think Will Byers will die? No. And I don't think the writers plan on killing him off. Not only would that realise the bury your gays trope, which I'm sure the Duffers have been consulted on when writing Will. However, throughout the season, there has been a common theme among the characters of believing they're the only ones who can sacrifice themselves to save the party, because they feel like it's the right thing to do and inevitably what they deserve. We see it with Hopper and Elle and Callie. We see it with Dustin putting himself in situations where he gets beaten up because he thinks he deserves it after what happened with Eddie. We see it with Steve this season, who calls Eddie's sacrifice unnecessary, that he did it not because he had to, but because he wanted to. We see it with Max and Holly with the free doors dilemma. Either you end your life, accept life in Camazotz, or find a way out. So it's no surprise we would see this theming with Will that will lead us into how he will act in the finale. I think there is something to be said about the way in which Mike and the rest of the cast keep calling Will a sorcerer, but Will repeatedly denies it.
I leave you alone for a second, and you turn into a sorcerer.
It was a little more than a second, and I'm not really a sorcerer.
I can definitely see Mike continuing to push this idea onto Will until he reaches a breaking point that no, I'm not a sorcerer, my powers aren't innate like Vecna's or Eleven's, I don't have control over my mind and body like Vecna does, and I can't be the superhero that saves everyone like Eleven, not even myself. And if my powers are like Vecna's, if I am also on the path of becoming this dark, unraveling nightmare like Henry did, then maybe I can be the hero by destroying the monster in myself. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. These past few days I've worked really hard to scramble this together before the finale. I know a lot of people were downhearted after the bridge, especially after the Jonathan and Nancy scene, or what they're trying to do with Eleven and Callie. Again, I saw a lot of discussion about the coming out scene, and I thought it would be worth it to throw my 2 cents in. And I hope after making this video you can understand why my opinion of this scene has changed, and maybe it's changed your opinion too. Analysing any new piece of media is kind of like discovering fire for the first time. You interact with it, react to it, and then reevaluate how you're going to interact with it again. And personally, I really enjoy that. Despite the overall reception to The Bridge, I've seen a lot of positive responses to season 5. Volume 1, at least, will definitely go down in history as some of the best writing, direction, and cinematography in television, and I hope the finale is the same. But until then, enjoy the finale when it comes out, have a happy new year, and I'll see you soon. Bye!